Hello, my wonderful friends. How are you? And I realize that it's not going to let me show it as bright as I would like it to, but I do want you to see the waterfall here, and I'm live in a place called Waialokoa, the Hilton Village here on the Big Island. And what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about time management, goal setting, and lifelong learning. Now just check this out. And there's the view from this side. It's absolutely gorgeous, isn't it? Alright, check out this. This morning a lizard ran into my house, or my vacation home here. Alright, it's gorgeous, isn't it? Well, I wish we could just sit here and talk about time management and goal setting like this. Maybe we can. I got to figure out how to do this. But let's go back. Alright, well anyway, what we're going to be talking about today are some questions that students have had about time management, and I actually have a PowerPoint on this. And having assisted Brian Tracy at 2 events through seminarsondvd.com, Yes Seminars, which is a fantastic company you should check out. What I will tell you is they are fantastic. It's a wonderful company, and they have a lot of motivational seminars and products. What I wanted to do is to quickly put something together where we're talking about goal setting, time management, and lifelong learning. Because anyone that's getting into psychology or personal development, you definitely want to know this. It's very, very important. So what you want to keep in mind is that you should have an hour. A lot of people talk about this. Earl Nightingale is very famous. And here's an example of this, a book called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. It doesn't matter what book it is, but it's a book that inspires you. And so I'm going to start reading, for example, for half an hour a day. You can have 45 minutes, 1 hour a day. 1 hour ideally is what you want. And another thing that I do is I listen to Hay House Radio for 2 hours a day, sometimes 4 hours a day. And what I also do is I recommend having a journal. So in a way you're documenting what you learned during that day, and you're also seeing where you can manage your time better, goals that you're working on, things that you're learning, and you can go back and reflect on it later. You can do it in the morning or at night. It's nice at night if you kind of see how far you've come with it. One thing I recommend carrying with you at all times is a planner. This is one that I got from Guitar Center that I still have. And you can put your business cards here. You can put your notepad here and anything you need to right here. And then one thing I also recommend is having a folder, which is awesome because the folder allows you to have reading material. Reading material that you might refer back to later. Let's say you're waiting in a waiting room. And Brian Tracy talks about this in his time management seminars too, tearing out sheets and putting them in a folder. Another thing that I have, and what I would recommend for you guys, is 2 planners. Now you might be scratching your head and saying, why 2? Why not 1? You could have 1 comprehensive one. A teacher's planner is perfect, okay? And that's kind of what I have. And I have my lesson plans, everything day by day, right here. But for students, I also recommend you can have an academic student planner or a teacher's planner. And what it is you can have everything day by day, class by class, subject by subject, vertically and horizontally, you see? And this particular series is called the House of Do-Light. I like also At a Glance. I use a lot of At a Glance. And this is my daily planner, also House of Do-Light, but as I normally I use the At a Glance set, but I lost it on a vacation sometime earlier in the year, and I ended up getting this one instead. But I recommend getting something where you are using it daily, monthly, and weekly, of course. So it's kind of spread out. So daily, weekly, and monthly, I mean. So it's kind of nice because you have things to look forward to, and then you can see, oh, okay, this is what I needed to do. And important deadlines, I would make sure to put in your phone so that your alarm goes off and reminds you. There are important events, for example, coming up this week, and I'm thinking, oh yes. And even with the planner, you would forget those things. So some time management tools that Brian Tracy talks about and other people have talked about are, for example, the 80-20 rule, the ABCDE method. They also have, what are they? The what other ones? The 80-20 rule, ABCDE method. Without having my PowerPoint in front of me, it's a little challenging. But you also have Parkinson's law. Okay. You also have another one called Back to the Present Thinking. Brian Tracy talks a lot about this one as well. But let's go over a few of these. So, for example, Back to the Present Thinking. You want to think with your long-term goals. So goals are beyond 5 years. Midterm are 1 to 5. And short-term are 0 to 1. And you want to follow a SMART formula, which is known as specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. That's the acronym. There's a really good website, topachievement.com. If you Google it and put SMART formula and top achievement, you'll find this page, a web page right at the top of your Google search. Highly recommend it. And they go over exactly what it is: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. So your goals, you imagine them out into the future, and you go back. Now, the one thing, as I've mentioned before in other clips, you can't always be 100% sure how things are going to go. You got to be open to how they can change. So you can have a goal that you can picture out into the future, and then as you're coming back, it's going to change. You see, the short term could change a little bit in a way that you could not have imagined. So I think the flexibility is important. For example, I once had a student that said, I want to work at this hospital. So she was adamant, and she says, I hadn't been hearing from them. So she worked on her cover letter and resume with me, and they did contact her, but I don't know what happened after that. But the point is, she kept trying to apply and apply and apply. That's great. What I would say that you should do if you're wanting to find a position, set the dollar amount, set the position, set the details, the working conditions, and then try to say, use it in the present tense so your subconscious accepts it. I earn X number of dollars working in this setting with this number of people in this environment. And let the universe bring the ideal step for you to have that position. I've done this, and it's a miracle, because the universe sees farther than you see. And so I don't want to say you'll limit yourself with your own goals. It's just that if you set those goals and keep expanding and allowing the universe to kind of respond to what you're envisioning, it's awesome, because you can go farther than you might go if you were just too rigid with your goals. But I do know someone that said she wanted to work for a place called the Christ Hospital in Cincinnati. It was a neighbor, so someone down the street, and she was so adamant about working there, she didn't give up, and she tried, I think, for 3 to 5 years. Finally, HR. As positions, she belonged to their job board database. So as any positions came up, she would definitely apply. And what would happen was, after 8 times of this, one of the HR officials contacted her and said, you've contacted us so much that you might as well get a hold of us. You might as well work for us. And so what ended up happening is she did get hired. And it was amazing. She then, I think it was a year or so, she got into her ideal situation, and she's very happy there at the Christ Hospital. And the point I'm making is, there are some people that are adamant, and they say, I'm going to be in this company, and there's no going back, and that's great. What I'm saying is, if something is not working out in a particular direction, and I've known people who have applied for positions 3 or 4 times, why not look for a place that's also going to say yes? It's kind of like if you're going to constantly talk to someone that doesn't want to be your friend or doesn't want to go out with you, and you have the opportunity to see somebody else, it's also, attention goes where energy flows, or energy goes where attention flows. However you want to look at that. I think that there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do, but why put all your energy into that? So I think working on what you can control, and then allowing yourself other opportunities. I had it happen where I was teaching in Hawaii, actually, when I lived in Honolulu. And there was a position, I didn't get it, wasn't successful. It was for a language school. I was teaching English at the time. But then it was funny because they liked my style, but I wasn't right exactly for their classroom and what they needed. And then Another school, actually a university, which was actually top rated and the number one for ESL, EFL, they hired me, and I'm very happy with them. Hawaii Pacific University, and what I want to say about them is they actually allowed me to take the students on a dinner catamaran that I had connections with. I was actually working there at night. They allowed me to go to Chinatown. They went to the Polynesian Cultural Center. They paid for me to take them there. They did not hold back. And I know that I was being taken care of far more than I would have been. There's nothing against the other school. But it's amazing how the universe works out. And you think that, well, if the top school is going to take me, surely the one that was middle of the road would have taken me. Not always. I don't know why it works out this way. But you can, I think the universe will set it out to where your goals will work out better. I've also seen situations where if you're looking for real estate or situations like that, and something doesn't work out or somebody buys the house that you want, and then all of a sudden somebody opens up another possibility and there's a house you hadn't considered, but then it meets your conditions, and then you're like, this is it. So I think being flexible about your goals is very, very important. And managing your time is also important. So okay, so back to the present thinking. So you think long term, you think mid range, and then you think short range. So you set those long range goals, come back, but allow serendipity, allow for a bit of fluctuation. But it is important to have something specific to where if somebody else was hearing your goals, they would say, oh, I know what you're talking about. So something specific, measurable, you can see monthly progress, attainable, realistic, and time-based. And then the 80-20 rule. 20% of your efforts account for 80% of your results. Okay, that's the Pareto principle. P-A-R-E-T-O principle. P-R-I-N-C-I-P-L-E. It's from the Italian economist, Goffredo Pareto, who noticed the Italian economy in the late 1800s, I believe, where he noticed that 20% controlled the wealth. So it's kind of interesting how 20% of the Italian society. So what you do, a little bit of what you do can account for massive results. And that's similar to the ABCDE method. A is your most important tasks. Your B is they're important tasks, but they're not quite as important as the A tasks. C, your C tasks are inconsequential. It's okay if you do them. If you don't, that's okay. D is delegate. And then E is eliminate. So you got A, your most important pressing tasks. So attending school, working, you've got to do these things, right? Taking care of your kids. B, you got to pay a bill that's due in a week. You might as well, you want to get on it, but you still have maybe a day or two. You better hurry and get that in. C, seeing a movie Friday night, there's no consequence if it's not required for a class. Then D is delegate, and E is eliminate. So these are the ABCDE method and the 80-20 rules. And then you also have Parkinson's law. Time contracts or expands, it's one of Parkinson's law, to fit the hours allotted to it. So if you have 4 hours and I give you a presentation to work on right now, you'll have it ready. But if I give you 4 weeks, you'll take all 4 weeks. And it's really interesting, and people often ask about procrastination and what it is and why it is and that people procrastinate. And I'll go into more detail in a later clip. But one of the main reasons people procrastinate are, I think, self-doubt. They think, well, I don't know if I can do it. And so they put it off. They don't have to think about it too much. Another thing is people set up rules in their head to wait until the last minute and then start on something. They just have a trigger. They say, okay, I'm going to decide to work on this at this time the night before, instead of, they could make a choice to work on something a little more, but they get used to being wired to the pressure. Okay, so now I have the pressure, and in this pressure state I feel like I can move and take action. So some people set it up that way, but guilt, insecurity, self-doubt, all these things can also lead to procrastination. And procrastination also comes from, do I even want to do this? That's number 3. There's some times where students will put off a project they're not really interested in. And that's one of the reasons, whenever possible, I try to get the students to write about psychologists, professional development experts, or whatever they're researching. I want them to find what they're interested in. and write about what they're interested, write about the topics they're interested in. That's the important thing, because see, if you're interested in it, you'll naturally research it. And I found that nobody has a problem turning on American Idol or something like that, right? A TV program, Walking Dead or whatever's out there. These TV programs, but then you give them a TV, or you give them a an assignment, it's a little challenging. And also, it doesn't mean that, number 4, some people procrastinate because they're burnt out. I think relaxing and then coming back to something helps. So and I've talked about this in another video clip, if you just kind of take a breather a little bit and then just come back to it. Many times when I'm teaching, I'll work on my seminars. I'll have my live seminars, online, and then what I'll do is I'll wait and then take a nap, or just like I did a little while ago, and then I'll start on my online work that needs to be done, the asynchronous work. And I think when you do that, what happens is you allow yourself to take a breather so you can mentally focus on what needs to be done. And that leads to another time management principle that I should talk about. It's tied into what is known as the energy cycle. And the energy cycle says that you have a 12-hour cycle from when you're most alert to when you're most tired. So I have some students that are morning people, and they're not night people. If you love being up at 7 a.m., at 7 p.m. you're going to be a little tired. So what you want to do is plan your classes, whether you're in a university setting or a high school setting or whatever kind of setting you're in, or online setting. Go ahead and set your classes up to where your classes are in the daytime. Well, I don't think in certain cases you have much of a choice. But then I have students that work themselves almost to death. They have the morning class, then they work, and then they have family. And I'm not saying, because I know what that's like. I've been there. I think that you need the downtime. Give yourself the chance to balance yourself, and this is important when goal setting and time management, and that's going to get into number 5 or 6. Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. Balance yourself to where you're taking care and recharging yourself. Spend time with your loved ones. If you worked all week, take the weekend off, or I encourage my students, go ahead and take 1 day off or 2 days off. Whatever, if you take care of your goals, some people do it this way. They plan a free day where they spend time with their kids, their husband or wives, respectively, and their husbands or wives and whoever else they need to spend time with or want to spend time with, and it makes a big difference in the quality. Just as an example, I'm going to do some online work, and then I'm going to have dinner with my family. We're going to have pizza and a salad, not that anyone cares. But the idea is then I'll get back to work. So you create that kind of balance, and then you kind of fit everything in. And I will say something, a really good book, I believe it's by Barbara Sher, it's called I Would Do What I Wanted If I Knew What It Was. Something like that. But by Barbara Sher, and she has another good book called Witchcraft. And what she talks about is, especially in line with the ABCDE method, is if you take tasks that you want, and you have a lot of important tasks that you want to accomplish, and some lesser important ones like B tasks, spread them out over the week. So if you are a musician like I am, and you don't play a lot, I don't play every day right now, I'm getting back into that, I used to. One of the things you want to do is, okay, maybe on the weekend play 1 hour or 2 hours, and you get back into it. Some people suggest 10-15 minutes a day. However it works for you, but you do remember more the more you do it. You will always tend to prioritize what is more pressing in your life at any given time. You will always tend to, your life is not the same now as it was in the past. I mean, have you ever thought about that? That if your life now, in the 24 hours that you're living, if you think a year ago, you were doing different things, you're in a different environment, you're with different people, you might even have been in a different job, different school. And so if you can develop a system and kind of move that system from your situation, your life situation to your life situation, or adapt as necessary, I think what can help you is that you can say, okay, I'm going to do this A task here, B task here, C task here, D task here, E task here. I know people that don't even own a TV. I don't have cable. I mean, maybe in the future I'll get it. But these people don't watch TV, and they kind of are happy about it. And what it is they free up time. Finding any way you can to free up time. And then that allows you to be more fluid. You can say, and I also recommend doing nothing on certain times in certain cases. And right now, these people are staring at me recording. I love this. So this is very important. So the ABCDE method, the 80-20 rule, back to the present thinking. And you want to also think of Parkinson's law. You want to think of your SMART goal formula. You want to think of long range, mid range, short range. Of course, long range beyond 5 years, mid range 1 to 5. And short range is 0 to 1. And the main thing is to allow yourself, and I think what would also be helpful is thinking of Davis and Palladino's motivation definition, arousal, which is interest, direction, and persistence. So having those 3 things attached to your goals. So when you're goal setting, you're seeking a goal, you're seeking to go towards something. But it's also about, as you know, who you're becoming in the process. And I've noticed that if you can habituate all of these things, tie in an hour of power, all these things that we talked about here, and tie in your journal writing. Have another thing I didn't mention is, by the way, have a to-do list. So you write down your 10 tasks that you need to do that day, or the Sunday before, which is what Brian Tracy and others recommend. So always allowing the night before, or that Sunday before, allowing things to sit in your subconscious. Go through these things, and then you work from your checklist. Like I have a checklist here. And then so you have a checklist, and the checklist can help you to work on your tasks. Very, very helpful. And you can combine all of these methods in any combination that you want. Your planner, your academic agenda, right? You have your journal, you have your book, you have your BlackBerry or your iPhone or whatever, or your Android or whatever phone you have, and you program important reminders so the alarm goes off. I think these things kind of help, and then you'll say, oh yes, now I got it. Alright, well I hope these tips have helped, and it's another exciting video from the beautiful big island of Hawaii, another excuse to kind of be outside and kind of look at the waterfalls and be among the palm trees. I'm trying to record as many videos as I can here, so I don't know how much longer I'll be here. So then, it's just kind of like, I don't live here currently, but it's nice to just be in this environment and recording and having fun. Well, hopefully you found these topics very helpful. A little bit on procrastination there, goal setting, and time management. Thank you, and have a fantastic day. Aloha and mahalo.